Okay, now we move on to chapter 4, selections. Alright, so here I choose one types of selections is that interview. Now I will talk about types of interview. There are actually 8 types of interview that been highlighted, right? Okay, the first one is traditional interview. These types of interview normally takes place in the office. It consists of interviewer and the candidates, and a series of questions are asked and answered. Okay, and then the second one is telephone interview. These types of interview is often used to narrow the list of people receiving a traditional interview. It can be used to determine salary requirements or other data that might automatically rule out giving someone a traditional interview. For examples, if you receive 200 resumes and narrow this down to 25, it's still unrealistic, to interview 25 people in person. So at this point, you may decide to conduct phone interviews of those 25, which could narrow the in-person interviews to a more manageable 10 or so people. Right? Okay, and then the third one is panel interview. These types of interview occurs when several people are interviewing one candidate at the same time. While this interview can be nerve-wracking for the candidate, it can also be more effective use of time. Consider some companies who requires 3 to 4 people to interview candidates for a job. It will be unrealistic to ask the candidate to come in for 3 or 4 interviews. So it makes sense for them to be interviewed by everyone at once. Right? Okay, and then next part is next type of interview is information interview. These information interviews are usually used when there is no specific job opening, but the candidate is exploring possibilities in a given career field. The advantage to conducting these types of interview is the ability to find great people ahead of a job opening. Number 5, meal interview. Right? There are many organizations offer to take the candidate to lunch or dinner for the interview. This can allow for a more casual meeting where, as the interviewer, you might be able to gather more information about the person, such as their manners and treatment of wait staff. Right? This type of interview might be considered as an unstructured interview, since it will tend to be more of a conversation as opposed to a session consisting of specific questions and answers. Alright, next type of interview is group interview. In a group interview, 2 or more candidates interview at the same time. This type of interview can be an excellent source of information if you need to know how they may relate to other people in their job. Right? The second last part of interview is video interview. Video interviews are the same as traditional interview, except that video in technology is used. Right? This can be a cost saving if one or more of your candidates are from out of town. Skype, for example, allows free video calls, right? An interviewer may not feel the same as a traditional interview, but the same information can be gathered about the candidates. Okay, the last type of interview is non-directive interview, or we can call it sometimes as unstructured interview. In this type of interview, the candidate essentially leads the discussion. Some very general questions that are planned ahead of time may be asked, but the candidate spend more time talking than the interviewer. The questions may be more open-ended. For example, instead of asking, do you like working with customers, you may ask, what did you like best about your last job? Okay, the advantage of this type of interview, we can see that it can give candidates a good chance for them to show their abilities. However, on the negative side is that it may be hard to compare potential candidates for the interviewer. Right? Okay, so that's all for me. Thank you.